Hey folks, welcome to my room. In this video I want to show some people some things in working with tight areas for their recording, as well as trying to maximize your space. Yes, puss, this is not about you. First thing you're going to notice here is this is my monitor. It's attached to my wall. If you look at my recording area, you're going to see that I have a mirror on the wall. The purpose for that mirror was so I could spin my monitor and be able to look at my DAW in the mirror. So this is where I do most of my computing until recently. Now what I use is my iPad. Let me darken this and set the mood a little bit. Okay, so what we're looking at here right now is we're looking at my iPad, which is Apple, and then behind me is my PC. Now it doesn't matter if this is like 300 feet away, I'm hooked up to a network. My iPad is hooked up to the wireless network, and my PC is hooked up to a landline. So you have things like the Studio One remote control or whatever your DAW may be. You might have the same thing in an app. But what I want to use is something so I can control everything. So I'm going to click on RD Client. And there's my computer. And there we are. We have my desktop. And this is not an app. This is my desktop, like I would have it on my computer right now if I was sitting in front of it. If now we look at my computer, it is locked. My time and date is right here. My taskbar is there. My icons are here. If I want to empty my recycling bin, I just click and hold, let go, and there it is. I'm going to open up my DAW of choice, which is Studio One 4 by Presonus. And I'm just going to create a new song to show that I'm actually inside my computer and not on a remote control, app of any kind. Let me send this back to the corner, test it out. All right, so again, I'm now connected to my computer that is a Mac or Windows computer. And this is a Apple platform here, and it's not that difficult to do. What I'm doing here right now, what I'm trying to show is the fact that you don't have to have a lot of space. If you can't have your computer in front of you, don't build a shelf for it. Get a tablet of any kind, a phone, and you can do the same thing. Even though Presonus made Studio One 4, they also made the Faderport that I use with the controls on it. I'm going to go ahead and fire that up. And you'll notice that my faders, they come to life and they go into the position they need to be. I can click record, and it's recording, and I can stop. So I'll do the same thing down here. I'll hit record. I will pause, and it pauses. If I stop, it'll go back, and then if I play it, it plays. If you look up at the tracks, it has mute, solo, record, everything else. That's indicated on my Faderport. I can unmute, and it will unmute up there. I can solo, it'll solo up there. They actually say the names of my tracks. Like this one right here is Kronos left, Kronos right. Now let me open up this. This is something I just recently put out. I didn't modify this in any way when I put it out, but since it's the last thing, I just went ahead and I added some automation here. Having motorized faders that keeps you in track with everything really keeps you locked down tight. So if I do make a change, it's going to make a change from where it really was on my DAW. And here's an example of that. So now, if I were to pause, keep that there, my Faderport is right where I need it to be. Anytime I scrub through the line, if I jump to here, my faders jump to that position. So that's the great thing to have, because then if I decide to go from here and I say I need that up higher, I'm not screwing up my whole mix. And that's that. I had to wait till nighttime to re-record this because the sunlight coming in from there was really killing me. So I hope this one step, if nothing else, saves you a lot of headache, because a lot of people have to make room for a lot of things, and I'm in my closet and I have limited space. I don't think there's anybody out there that has more difficulty in trying to squeeze everything into a small area. And by the way, there's my new light. Mounting and accessories, you're looking at tons and tons of different things you can do. You'll have a bazillion cables when you're done if you do things like I do, a bunch of different connector types, such as stickies like this you could put on your wall, as well as the one I have over there. And there are tons of these type of connectors that will connect to just about anything. You just have to think of what you need it for and then buy the attachment for it. But when it's all said and done, I have tons and tons and tons of different connectors. And they're not all sold, like if you're using GoPro, they're not necessarily GoPro. They could be nothing more than mic stands, such as this. This mic stand over here, that has just got my microphone on it right now. This right here is nothing more than a laptop stand that I use to hold my mini controller and my boombox. And then to hold my Faderport, I actually have another one of those same stands. Hard to get a good view of it. But I have that, just using half of it. And then I use a flexi connector, once again, going down to my frame. And everything is just about everything is attached to my framework. This right here, this flexible connector here, is what you're seeing that right there connected to, holding up my Faderport. And this here, for my iPad display, doesn't touch my Faderport, even though it does look like it does. It does not. And I have more room than you think to get my fingers in there. One thing I want to bring up, and I've spent a lot of time in dealing with, is when dealing with a small environment like this, I'm in my closet here, okay? And at first I thought what a bad situation it was, but it's so perfect for recording. If you look at any of my videos, you won't have any idea I'm playing out of a closet. And it helps with both lighting as well as different camera options. Having the cameras mounted somewhere other than your stand, such as this one right here, and the way I used to have this one right here hooked up, it used to come off of a attachment such as this, came straight up and over and looked right down on my keyboard. And the problem with that, as you'll see if you look at some of my videos, everything that's attached to my frame when I'm playing, the keyboard shaking a little bit, the cameras of course shake. So what I've tried to do to kill that is to eliminate anything touching my keyboard or my keyboard frame, such as these shelves right here. I have this 8-inch shelf there, not touching my keyboard, as well as this shelf right here, much smaller shelf, but just enough for my GoPro. And last but not least is my new center stand, and it's this mic stand right here. And I was able to snake it through my frame without touching any part of it. So it is self-sufficient, or it is not requiring my stand whatsoever. So no matter how much I hammer the keys, I am not shaking my camera. If you do not have a Ludwig van Beethoven on the corner of your keyboard, then, well, then you're not a Peanuts fan like I am. Now, when you're picking your camera, you really have to go with your own budget. I'm just going to give you some tips on what I use. Personally, I would like to be able to buy 3 or 4 DSLR cameras. They range in price, but most of them are very expensive, and most of them don't come with a lens that you'll have to add into that budget. Other options include a webcam. Problem with that is you're probably going to be limited to the one camera, and the bigger problem would be that you're going to be recording it through your software on your computer. If you're hooked up and you're using a digital piano, then that's probably going to also be recording your audio from a different software application, and the two could probably not play nice together, if you know what I mean. For me, I use some GoPros. Right now I have 3 GoPro 7s. I have 3 7 Blacks, even though 2 of the white limited edition dusk white. And I have 1 Fusion, which shoots 360 video, which I hope to use for videos down the road. Whatever you do get, though, do keep in mind that you have a small window to return them, so test them vigorously. Put them in your recording environment and go to town. Test every mode possible. Make sure the video footage is going to be what you want. Like here, I bought this Zoom not too long ago, and I did just that. I tested every possible mode with various lighting, and I wasn't happy with the video at all. Even though I did order some new lighting and waited for that to come in, test it, and still have time to return it. I've tried various GoPros. I wanted to try to match my wall color. And if I were to take this and move it back, you'll see that it blends in much better with my wall, which when recording from far away, like this camera position, as well as coming over to this camera position, it blends in a little bit better than seeing a dark silhouette on a white wall. Some of the things you see here might not be able to be found nowadays, but they do have different types that replace them, such as this particular battery pack from GoPro. It is thin, it is small, but I could run USB cables directly from it over to my camera. And the other cable I have down here hanging right now, but it basically would plug into the back of this. And those ports do have little doors on them, but before you put them inside its cradle, you just snap them off. And they snap right back on when you want them back on. This is the older version GoPro that I had. You can no longer buy these, and do not try. If you do find them somewhere, they are junk, they are crap. I had 4 of them at one time, and now I have that one left. The other two of them crapped out completely, and I gave the other one to a friend. This right here is a Faderport, a single port. As I showed earlier, I have the 8-port, and the single port I still plan to use. I just haven't bothered setting it up yet, even though I've had it for about a year. Now, just to show you, you do have a little bit of lag here. When you're recording, you have a lot more lag. But that is only the case when you're recording. When you're not recording, there is far less lag. And that's only when using the app. It's not going to affect your footage whatsoever. Lighting. I just got this today. I was kind of hoping so I'd get this into my video. It's a 40-inch light. It is Bluetooth. So it's kind of like a stage light. It has various colors. I could set up different patterns. I'm probably going to put it underneath there, shining up, so I get some ambience, some color action going on my walls. And yes, Puss, shut your face. Thank you very much. She's going to love the light. So I have an app actually for my new light, and it's pairing right now. Too bright, bring this way down. Match my other lighting. Not cool or what? Boys and their toys. So other than that, what I do have, and another reason I like the closet, is I can stick lighting tape strip behind there. And then when I'm playing, and this isn't recording I have to have it on bright light. But when I'm practicing, I can set it up for, excuse me. This is what I usually practice in, either red or very dark red or green. And it helps really change your mood when you're playing. Blue when you're feeling blue. And back to white. Lighting is very crucial when you're trying to record. If you look at some of my videos, you'll see that it looks really dark, but I do that in video editing. I shine with it, or I record with it as bright as humanly possible, and then later in the video stage, I darken my scene manually. Otherwise, due to the low light, even with the new GoPro 7s, the latest and greatest of those, as well as especially the Zoom and even the phone. The phone is probably by far one of the best things to record with because it can do so much. And the iPad is also a pretty decent recording device. If you look at my video Apologize, you can see me using that. The other thing I want to talk about is this right here. This is a Behringer, and I'm going to use my other footage for it. Now this right here, this is the Behringer PowerPlay 16. And this is a great thing as well. Now this right here, what this allows you to do is it's meant for bands so they can have their own equalizer. Let's say I am the singer and I can't hear the drums. I can go ahead to this channel right here and I could set the drums, the volume right here, turning them up a little bit. And for some reason I haven't panned over. Let's go to center. And I'm going to go over to the guitar player now, and I'm going to do the same thing with him. I'm going to actually pan him to the far right since he's standing on my right, and I want to turn him down. He's a little too loud. And then if I went back to my drums, you could see that it saved the settings for it. What I use it for, though, I use it for when I'm doing something like composing. That could be something as simple as a loop that I created, and I have the track in there, and I want to be able to hear that as well. And let's say I'm composing a full 40-piece symphony, and I have multiple tracks there. You know, again, this is something that you might want to think about because this is run via network cable, and it's great for bands independently. And anything that I do to the mix, actually it's not the mix at all that I'm messing with. When I'm turning these things here, it's just each individual track or whatever I have set for each individual output. But very cool to have, totally not necessary. But again, if you're in a remote location, it really does make life a lot more beautiful and easy. All right, let's look at my studio rack real quick. The only thing you really need to have is some kind of input-output system. I use the Focusrite Scarlett 18i20, and this is the first version. The second version is much better, especially for latency if you're using VST instruments on your DAW. We'll cover the top in a minute. It's nothing more than a guitar tuner, but I use it in a kind of unique way. Here we have a Mode 2 Express or MIDI Express XT, and that's so I can have all my MIDI data sent to my DAW from my various contraptions, such as that, my keyboards, etc. This right here was made for DJs, and this is so, again, I play by ear mostly, and back in the day if I had a hard time being able to find the sound on that due to effects or a symphony or orchestra like drowning it out, I would throw it on a flash card, throw it in here, and then I'd be able to scrub back and forth and listen to it, kind of like a DJ rapper. And then we have my computer underneath. Now I custom built this. This is a workhorse, and I have a bazillion SD cards. There is a little dust in there. I just added 2 SD cards, but SD cards and your music and video especially is what you want. You want some really good quality SD cards. And I have about 6 in there right now, and a high-end video card is definitely worth the while if you're going to be doing a lot of video editing. The bottom here I have a monster power source. It's a Pro 2500, and that right there is, if you looked at the back of it, you would see everything that I have here in my rack, as well as my keyboard over there and this computer right here. Everything is plugged in through that. And line conditioning, I couldn't stress enough. If you're having pops and different sounds going on with your cabling, I have thousands of dollars worth of Mogami cables, and I try to keep them as neat as humanly possible. But even though you use high-end cabling, it doesn't really matter if you have bad line conditioning or bad power source. So that gives me good line conditioning, and it helps me avoid those crackles, pops, and everything else. The guitar tuner is really just a guitar tuner. If I want to find a sound, or if I'm using this right here and I do loop something where the note's played over and over and over, I can just kind of look up here, since everything's wired to one another, and I could see what note it is in. Doesn't really work all that great if you have a lot of effects on it, but to give you an idea, I can come over to the keyboard here and press a note, and we can see it over here. This right here is Camtasia Studio. This is a great application. It's one of the better tutorial type screen capture programs that does have its own video editor. I've used this many times for videos outside of screen capture or tutorial type videos, and it works really well. It's very easy to use and something worth considering. Another application that I just started using is this one here. This is DaVinci Resolve. This is a free application. This is 360 video. This is my first 360 video. Now the free version will only let you do 4K, and 4K for a normal video is great, but doing 4K for a 360 video is pretty low. But I had to downgrade it to 4K and it came out okay.
One of the best things about this particular program, and one of the things that I've read about the most about this, was its color correction. This has some of the best color correction I've ever seen in a video editor. I mean, this really does go very far into it. There's a million tutorials on this, and I can't wait to look at a few. It's pretty sweet, some of the things that you can do with this, and I've only messed with it a little bit. But just doing a curve adjustment is not going to do it justice. So check out those tutorials, and again, this is free. Check it out. Adobe Premiere Pro, this is another great app. Now, this particular program is a little bit different than the one I use. You have like all of them, you have a timeline, but this one allows you to put them like this to where you can put them back to back. You don't have to layer them. You can layer them. You can take it, move it over. You can do a lot with this. I don't have much experience with this, believe it or not, and this is one of the most popular ones in the world. I own it. I own the Adobe CS6 Suite and Production Premium Suite, and I have a ton of applications, but this particular video editor is just not to my preferred liking. Adobe After Effects, this is my #1 go-to. This particular one is not for most people because it is quite complex. There's a lot more to this than any of the other ones that I showed you, yet it's the most powerful of all of the ones I just showed you. If you're using Adobe Premiere a lot, you will often export to After Effects so you could do something in After Effects. With Adobe Premiere, you can't do everything that you can do in After Effects, and with After Effects I could do everything that's in Premiere. Now this particular video I just did not too long ago. I don't really have a lot going on in here, but there are a few things that I do want to show you that I mentioned in the lighting section. The fact that finding a camera that's good in low light is really hard to come by, and if you do, it's probably very expensive. With video editing, you could make that a lot easier and not have to worry too much about the camera you have. Now here, you can see that I have a nice dark atmosphere. The candle should give it away here, what I'm doing. But if you look at certain things of the video, everything's bright, like this bust of Beethoven and the keys right here. Now I'm going to show you how I did that. I kind of cheated. Now when you're recording, to avoid the noise that you'll get in video, you have to shoot with very bright light. No exception here, I had to shoot with very bright light. But this particular layer is a black, dark, solid layer. And I dropped the opacity to that. And then I went ahead and I masked around Beethoven to make sure he wasn't affected by that black at all, and this section of the keyboard. Now I feathered this mask right here so you can't see any sharp edges, and it blends carefully around my hand and up the wall and over the keyboard. But this particular part right here is unchanged. This is unchanged, and I'm going to show you that right now. When I toggle that on and off, actually let me kill this first. When I toggle this on and off, you'll see what I actually was working with. That's what I shot the video in. Very bright, not that intimate, and it just kind of kills the mood. So before and after. Before and after. Zoom in a little bit. Before, after. And one last thing that I could think of is right here, a watermark. Now this watermark right here is just my current logo. I have something in every one of my videos, though I don't really want it visible. So if you look at this right here, this is what it is. I have a blending option set to it for silhouette. If I were to change this back to normal, you'd see what it really is. So this is it. It's a watermark. Actually, the original, let me drag that out here. And this is the original, and it's just an idea I had, and I went with it, and it's kind of corny, but I like to have them in my videos, so I totally recommend putting in a watermark away to where people can't see it through the whole video. Nobody wants to see a big watermark in the corner of your screen the whole time you're playing. Make it more special to your audience. Now one thing I want to show you is I want to give you an idea of how involved the project can get. One of the reasons why people don't like this particular software is because it's layered. You can't have them back to back. They all go one on top of the other. This particular video is the video you're watching right now. Actually, you're in this segment here to where I talk about different video editing software. There's DaVinci Resolve. And starting all the way from the very beginning where I have the intro and puss and all that good stuff. Now, one thing here is these aren't individual videos. These are individual compositions. Within inside each composition, that's when you start to get into all the different videos and all the different text layers and everything like that. So each one of these has its own group of videos, edits, and texts and audio files. One of the bigger ones probably being this one here, to where this one just seems to go on and on forever. If I were to bring this way up, it still wouldn't show you the whole thing. There's a lot of time that can go into these. It really depends on how much you want to put into it. But you can make some great videos with this stuff, and I hope to see some of them soon.
Now this is a really great app right here. It's called Piano 3D. For all those people out there that are looking for a nice app to learn how to play certain songs, this is awesome. This is beyond fantastic. Now it's playing this song a little slow, so I could bring it up to its normal speed, which is about 151-ish. That's good. Now you can stop it. I very rarely let it play. I just sit here and I'll shrink it down so I can get a good idea of what's ahead, and then I'll just scroll myself and use it that way. Another cool thing about it is you don't have to be in this mode at all. You could change it to many different things. I'm going to go to auto camera, and let's choose a piano here. Let's choose this artsy fancy one. And the mode, let's make sure that's an auto camera. And now I'm going to choose play. Even the pedals work. At least the damper. It's almost cheating. It's just so easy and so incredible to watch. Change my instrument. Change color. Song library. I can go in here and check out the different songs that I've downloaded on the MIDI. And these are all songs that I really want to learn. This one I just learned, and I learned it this way. This is Handel. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name of the song. And some much more difficult songs. Piece of cake, right? Maybe not. This new cable has really done a lot of wonders for me. I just like to actually have it in this mode so I can see it. So let me go ahead and give you a quick demonstration of it. I'm working on a few songs right now, one of which is Stu Yanni. I'm learning probably his more difficult song, Until the Last Moment.
here I want to show you some different things you can do with MIDI. Now this is my DAW, or my digital audio workstation, that I record my audio with when I'm playing the piano. And I'm going to open up this song here, which is the one that I recorded recently of the handle video. So if we play that, let me unmute these, you can listen to it. So I have my left track, I have my right track, and I have my MIDI track. Now right now I have, let me unmute the MIDI track and mute those. So actually let me show you a quick piece. Here is with the actual audio that I recorded from my keyboard. Okay, and here is just the MIDI. Now MIDI doesn't have sound, you have to assign it sound. So right now, the sound that I have on there, for this particular one, it says Steinway there, but it's not. This is actually Bosendorfer sound, and let's give that a little listen. But I can put the Steinway sound in, and let's do that while it's playing. Now this particular player, just in case you're wondering, this is actual wave files of the instruments, and the instruments that I have, the ones that you see highlighted here, they cost me thousands of dollars, because this is not just digital nonsense. This is if you really wanted to get heavily into composing, which I do, and I have done, and I'm working on some top secret projects that will probably take me my lifetime. But in any case, let me show you about some MIDI here. Now with MIDI data, when you're playing the keyboard or playing whatever has MIDI to it and you're recording that MIDI data, you have all kinds of things being recorded into that MIDI data. So right here it's showing the velocities. It's showing how hard I hit each note. It will also show you sustain data. So here you can see when I'm playing it, after it gets going it will start to sustain, and if I was to move that down, let's go ahead of it, you'll see there will be no sustain here. And I could add sustain to it, I can lengthen notes, I could shorten notes, I can move notes around. And like Ludwig or any other composer back in his day, they would sit there and write it on empty sheet music. But with MIDI, you can do it right here. You could draw your notes as, you know, just like they would. And I can change things around. So let's go ahead and play this once real quick without a change. And now let me go ahead and change it. Okay, we can see that that was quite horrible. But let's go ahead and add things to it. Let's add a different sound here. So right now we have the Steinway that we replaced the Bosendorfer. Let's add strings to this. And this one might take a second to go here. Let's do full strings. Long, and that looks good. We're going to add. And now let's go ahead and give it a listen and see how horrible we just killed this. Let's skip over that junk that we just did there and move over here. Quite awful, but you get the idea. So this right here, using MIDI data, is essential for composing. I'm going to show you something else that I've been working on. I actually haven't been working on this for a long time, but this right here will give you a much better idea and appreciation for using MIDI data. So right now these are all my different mixes for all the sound. If I go to my edit view, I could view each individual track. Now again, here you have every single note. I can shorten them, lengthen them, do whatever I want. Initially what I do is I play the piano part, and every other instrument that you see on here, with the exception of the drums way at the top, which I kind of forgot, but the drums are going to be a little screwed up here. Let me solo that. Yeah, it's quite horrible. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to talk as little as possible now so you can hear everything. I'm going to just solo some channels and bring it all in together. This is the guitar track. keep in mind that all these instruments were played on my keyboard. Again, I'm using the MIDI data and I'm adding the sounds to that data at a later time. This is the piano melody, meaning like the melody for the singer. Now I'm going to start bringing in all the instruments together. Here's the piano main. And that's that. MIDI is a incredibly powerful thing. It's just an awesome thing to learn, to use to compose, or just to have fun with. It's incredible. So I hope you enjoyed that little clip, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to use it whenever you want, and ask questions if you don't understand anything. Thanks for watching. Take a bow, puss puss. Bye-bye.